Hello, welcome to David Galata Book Dreamer. I'm David Galata and the guy who's dreaming up books. And today, as promised, I am going to be reading an excerpt from my latest book, Stellar Trespassers. This is the beginning of a new trilogy involving the terraforming generation ship Ganges. And it's very exciting to get this. I'm working on the second book, Siege of Ganges, right now, and that should be out probably in November. So this is the first one of the second trilogy, and I'm going to read just a small excerpt from it, not quite halfway into the book, more like a third of the way into the book, and we'll do that. And this will be number 7. So next week I'm going to be working on some other topics here, some more general topics for you, and we'll get going with that. So without further ado, let's begin Stellar Trespassers, the first volume of The Invasion Spirals. Stellar Sector Wheel, Level 1. Stellar Ensign Rank 3 Kryn Spanglo glowered down at his main control boards. Nothing he did cleared up any of the aberrant readings he was getting from the observations of System 41. Impossible scenarios ran through his head like acrobats in low gravity. His director was demanding answers, and the bridge had been pressuring his crew for any explanations concerning the exotic nature of the heliopause they had entered through. Kryn was certain that there was a reasonable answer for everything, but he was swiftly running out of ideas to test. Any notion that came to him which might resolve the errors he was glaring at also had to be verified. If he couldn't set up a reliable way to test out his theories, he might as well not even mention his ideas. 2 other members of his observation analysis group were hard at work attempting to resolve multiple anomalies and running a long series of diagnostics to check their equipment. Any data coming from active sensors were not only filled with errors, they were full of contradictory ones. Using LiDAR to track an asteroid within the system made it seem like they were looking at entirely different objects from one moment to the next, with differing data discrepancies each and every time. Taking the same asteroid and observing it with only the passive sensors revealed the same information with every pass. He felt as if he was going mad. Correlating the data from different sources made a total mess of the overall picture. An object moving relative to its star shouldn't appear as if it was made of liquid according to one sensor, bare rock in another, and then displaying the properties of a plasma gas in a third. It was physically impossible. Either every sensor in Ganges was completely broken, or they had accidentally entered another dimension where the laws of reality were altered. Needless to say, this was not an acceptable conclusion in a scientific report to his superiors. While the heliopause had seemed a bit dense compared to others they had entered in the past, it didn't explain the highly violent response to their entry. Ganges was beautifully designed for system incursions, with hardened equipment and a number of safety features to prevent shocks and destructive energies from entering the hull. The only thing in Stellar System 41 that made any sense was gravity, though the mass spectrometers were still behaving in a glitchy manner. They had been forced to use pre-spaceflight methods to gain any insight into the nature of the gravity well they had entered. This was imprecise, which made Kryn very angry. To top everything off, even the passive sensors, such as the visible light telescopes, gave them a strange set of readings. He had also checked the database of stellar systems within his sector's archives and found nothing that could compare to what they were seeing at this location. Every planet orbiting Star 41 was swirling around it in a perfectly circular pathway. There was a large and dense Oort cloud, but beyond that there was no debris to be detected between planets. Every asteroid they had checked on was clean, as if scoured by a storm of impossible magnitude. Ejections from the star itself were ruled out because anything that might scrub the asteroids of dust would have shattered the rocky bodies into gravel. This was enough to make Kryn tear his hair out in frustration. Every planet was perfectly aligned upon the ecliptic plane, which had no tilt. The star itself was balanced with precision at its poles. No wobbles, no axial tilt, no discrepancies. The natural satellites of the gas giants within the system were equally precise in their orbits. Some of the other observation teams had submitted some wild hypotheses such as nearby rogue black holes, hyperdense space-time patterns for this region of the galaxy, and other more exotic suppositions. None of these could be proven true. All of them were found to be unacceptable to the bridge. The chief of Stellar Sector had been forced to demand that all theories concerning the anomalous readings had to be backed up by hard evidence. This was an impossible goal for an insane situation. Kryn got up from his station and left his lab. There was only one thing he could do right now. He stalked the dark, carpeted halls of Stellar, ignoring the displays boasting the inventions and triumphs of his sector. Some crew felt that Stellar was more like a museum than anything else, and he was forced to agree. It certainly seemed to be designed in that manner. Low lighting, save for the displays, spotlights glaring down at antique machines, or the wall screens displaying images of famous experiments, researchers, and major discoveries. After the awakening, much of their scientific knowledge had been destroyed, save for what had been contained within Naga's mind, and even parts of that had been heavily classified and censored. Stellar had been forced to reinvent the gear, sometimes literally. Then there was the black eye to their reputation from the Crucible. Stellar had changed since then, but the rest of the crew still found reasons to distrust them. It was almost enough to make him consider requesting a transfer to engineering. Kryn shook off his maudlin musings and entered a lift, which opened as he approached. He stepped inside and looked up. "Thank you, Naga. Level 10, if you please." The doors snapped shut and the elevator moved with speed. He grabbed a gold handrail for support as the AI asked, "What is your specific destination, Ensign Kryn Spangler?" He sighed and then replied, "I need to see the chief right away. She needs to hear what I've got to say, without any politics getting involved. If I write a report, it will be shuffled into someone else's desk, never to be seen again." Naga replied, "Stellar Chief Freya Magletor is not in her office. I shall redirect you to her location. Please prepare for emergency speed." Kryn cried out, "Whoa now! Hang on, Apollon!" The lift changed its speed, shooting off toward midships, squashing him to the floor. He clung to the handrail as best he could, heart hammering in his chest. Kryn had never experienced this sort of maneuver except once during his basic crew training. He hadn't liked it then. He didn't like it now. When the lift stopped, he was thrown from the floor. The doors swept open at level 91. The lower apparent gravity allowed him to regain his footing with just a little bruise to his ego. He loped out into a narrow corridor only 5 meters wide. Just a short distance away, he could see Chief Magletor speaking with a group of technicians. There were few wall screens here, just every 20 meters. The rest of the corridor was filled with cable clusters, machinery, and bare metal decking. He raced over to her, panting with exertion. By the time he got to her, everyone was silent and staring at him. Kryn saluted in the stellar manner, swinging his right palm to his brow. "Pardon me, Chief. I need to speak with you concerning the problems with the sensors." Chief Freya Magletor raised an eyebrow at him. "You couldn't bring this to your director, Ensign?" Kryn felt the blood rush to his face. "My apologies, Chief, but we don't have the time to wait for next sewing's meeting, if you catch my vector." She handed a datapad to one of the others and faced him directly. "Why not, Ensign? Please explain." Kryn felt himself beginning to sweat. "There's one rocky planet at the very outskirts of the system. Chief, if we're going to... Let me restart that one. There's one rocky planet at the very outskirts of the system, Chief. If we're going to recalibrate the sensors, we need to be able to study one object from a closer flight path. Right now, we'll swing by it from too far a distance to really get any meaningful results. I am proposing a flyby, just a single orbit to compare results from the passive and active sensors, bringing them into alignment. If we don't change course now, we might still be having issues with malfunctioning equipment or be under the influence of whatever is affecting them. Either way, we'd be heading to the target planet blind. I just feel that might be a really bad idea, Chief. Chief Freya Magletor closed her eyes for a few pollen slivers, her Naga port blinking. When she opened them again, she nodded to him. Naga agrees this is the best course of action. I shall present it to the captain right away. Well done, Ensign Spangle. You might have just earned a bonus this rotation. Kryn almost collapsed to the deck in relief. If they couldn't properly align all the sensors, they would be taking a severe risk with any flight path they chose. He only hoped the captain would agree with his plan. There we have that. Nice short snippet there. There's a very mysterious system that the ship has entered, System 41, where things are not normal, not the usual thing that they have found before, and they're having trouble with their sensors. This is very dangerous when you're trying to maneuver into a system you don't know, and of course, they have to solve the problem before they go any deeper. So that is part of what's going on in Stellar Trespassers. There's actually several things going on in Stellar Trespassers, but that gives you just a little taste of what's happening in the book. So it's been a lot of fun reading these excerpts from all 7 of my novels, all of which are available on Amazon. So if you want to take a look, go for it. If you want to purchase a signed copy, you can find me at my events, which I'll be announcing soon. And also, you can contact me directly, and we can make arrangements. I'm very happy to do that. So, this is very exciting. Siege of Ganges is coming along very nicely. At some point, I might give you guys a sneak peek of the inside of that one. There's a lot going on in Siege of Ganges. The trilogy is all planned out. Everything is ready. I've got my notes. Everything is all set to go. So I expect that the entire trilogy will be done by November of next year, which I'm very excited about. Very, very pleased. Also hoping to do another set of short stories and a new fantasy book as well. So working on one fantasy book now named Sorcerer. And I am also going to be working on another fantasy book whose title at this moment will remain obscured. So I've got a lot going on. Plus, I'm working on audiobooks. That is going a little slow, I will admit. But I want to make a good product. As you can see, just reading aloud, sometimes you mess up. Tongue trips over things, and you misread a word. So you have to be very, very precise with the audio editing and all of that. Unfortunately, I do have some help now, and they are getting the job done. It's just, it is slow going because every time there's an error, I have to re-record a passage and then submit it, and then it gets checked, and then it gets fitted into it's a lot. It's a lot, but it will be worth it. I am hoping to have Crew of Ganges available as an audiobook by the end of the year. I'm really hoping that can happen, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. So just bear with me a little longer. Once that's done, we'll also have Clockmaker available on audiobook, and then we're gonna keep rolling it. Veil of Strife, Painful Medicine, all of my books I want to have available as audiobooks, every single one of them. And people have been asking for these in my voice. Otherwise, I would have just handed this off to ACX and have their people do it. But people seem to want me to read my books, including ACX, who really does prefer that the author reads their own novel because only the author truly understands how their characters sound, how they respond to things, what the emotions are involved, and where emphasis should be placed. And yeah, that's very true. That's very true. It's one of the advantages of having the author read their own work. So I'm agreeing, and I'm doing it as quickly as I can. But in the meantime, you do have these excerpts. I hope you have enjoyed them as much as I have enjoyed reading them aloud to you. So I will see you all next week. Please hit the subscribe button. Please, that would be wonderful. And if you have any comments or questions, don't be shy. Feel free to ask them, and I will get back to you. I always answer my comments here. So in the meantime, I'll see you all next week with a new topic, and we will have a good time with that. I am certain. So you all, happy reading to you all, and take care.